The Banished Viking, Rollo of Normandy, known in his time as Hrolf the Walker, was no ordinary Viking. He was so tall and strong that no horse could carry him, so he walked beside them instead. That's how he got his name. But even mighty warriors face consequences. Rollo was banished from his homeland in Scandinavia after causing too much trouble. Some say it was for raiding too often. Others say he went against his leaders. Banished but not broken, Rollo gathered a group of fearless men. Together, they sailed the seas, raiding towns and villages across Europe. They stormed coasts in England, Ireland, and France. Rollo wasn't just looking for gold, he wanted a place to settle. The rivers of France were perfect for Viking ships. They followed the Seine River deep into the land. The French king, Charles the Simple, couldn't stop them. Rollo kept pushing forward, bold and confident. But war has a cost. People were growing tired of constant fighting. Rollo didn't just want to take, he wanted to rule, and King Charles was running out of options. A new chapter was about to begin, not with blood, but with an offer that could change everything. A deal with the king. Rollo had made himself a real threat. He wasn't just a raider anymore, he was a leader with an army behind him. His attacks on Paris and other towns had frightened King Charles. Fighting wasn't working. So the king did something surprising. He sent messengers to Rollo with a proposal. Charles offered Rollo land in the region of Neustria, near the Seine River, if he would stop raiding and protect the kingdom from other Vikings. In return, Rollo had to agree to become a Christian and swear loyalty to the king. It was a bold offer. Rollo thought hard about it. He didn't care much for religion or kings, but he cared about land. His people needed a place to live, farm, and grow strong. In 911, Rollo agreed. He met King Charles in a grand ceremony. As part of the deal, Rollo was baptized and took the Christian name Robert. He even married a French noblewoman, Gisela, the king's daughter. The deal gave Rollo control over a large piece of land, which would become known as Normandy, land of the Northmen. But Rollo wasn't done yet. He had land now, but he needed to rule it like a true lord. And for that, he would need to earn the respect of the people, not just his warriors. Building Normandy, Rollo had land now, but ruling was not the same as raiding. He had to protect villages, settle arguments, and make sure his people had enough to eat. Normandy was wild and full of danger. Some locals feared him, others hated him. They saw him as a Viking outsider. But Rollo was smart. He knew fear wouldn't last forever, but fairness could. He worked to earn the trust of the local people. He let them keep their land if they followed his rule. He gave land to his Viking warriors too, encouraging them to farm and settle down. He built strongholds to protect towns from other Viking raids. Slowly, the people saw that under Rollo's rule, they were safer. Trade grew and farms began to thrive. Rollo also learned from the Franks. He adopted their laws, customs, and language, blending Viking and Frankish ways. It wasn't always easy. There were fights, betrayals, and old habits to break. But Rollo stayed strong. He punished thieves and defended the weak. He became more than a warlord. He became a duke in all but name. From the ashes of war, Rollo was building something lasting. Normandy was no longer just a prize won in battle, it was home. Trials of leadership. As Normandy grew, so did its challenges. Rollo had to deal with more than just enemies. There were famines, feuds between nobles, and even rebellions. Not everyone liked the changes Rollo brought. Some Vikings didn't want to give up their old ways. Some Franks didn't trust a foreign ruler. Rollo ruled with a strong hand. He made laws that were fair but firm. Thieves were punished, and land disputes were settled quickly. He protected churches and let priests spread Christianity, even though he still clung to Old Norse beliefs in private. He also had to keep peace with the king. Though they had made a deal, the Franks still watched him closely. One wrong move, and the whole arrangement could fall apart. Rollo sent gifts to the king and kept the roads safe. His loyalty bought him time. Rollo also thought about the future. He wanted his son, William Longsword, to continue his work. So he began teaching him how to lead, how to fight when needed, but also how to listen and plan. These were the years when Rollo truly proved himself, not with raids or fear, but with decisions that shaped a new land. Normandy was becoming stronger, and Rollo was no longer just a Viking. He was becoming something more, a true ruler. Years passed, and the once fierce warrior began to slow down. Rollo's hair turned white, and his steps were heavier. But his mind stayed sharp. He still made decisions, still gave orders, still watched over his people. He spent more time with his son, William. Rollo wanted him to understand what it meant to lead, not just to fight, but to care. He told him stories of battles, but also stories of mistakes. "Strength wins battles," he said, "but wisdom wins peace." William was eager, brave, and respected by many. Rollo saw himself in the boy, but also saw something new, someone who could finish what he had started. But not all was calm. Some of Rollo's old enemies still waited for a chance to strike, and some nobles within Normandy wanted more power. Rollo had to settle disputes, stop uprisings, and remind everyone who ruled. Still, the land was changing. Villages were growing, trade was rising, and the people had hope. Normandy was no longer a place of chaos. It had become a land of order. Rollo knew he didn't have many years left, but he was proud. He had turned exile into empire. And now, the time was coming to pass the torch to the next generation. Even in old age, Rollo was not finished. One last threat appeared. Viking raiders along the coast, the kind he had once led. They attacked small towns and spread fear through Normandy. Rollo couldn't stand by. He gathered his forces for one final campaign. William rode at his side. Together, they led their troops to the coast, pushing back the raiders with fire and steel. The battle was fierce. Rollo, though aged, fought like the warrior he once was. The victory was hard-earned. The coast was secured, and the people were safe again. But the fight took a toll on Rollo. His body, old and worn, could no longer keep up. After the battle, he returned to his stronghold. He knew this was his last war. He called his warriors and nobles together and spoke to them. "Normandy must remain strong," he said. "Not by the sword alone, but by law, by peace, and by honor." Rollo had done what few Vikings ever did. He had created a land, defended it, and ruled it wisely. The fires of battle were dying, but the flame of leadership burned bright in William. Rollo rested, knowing his time was ending. He had lived a life of storms and victories, and now the quiet days had come. Passing the torch. Rollo knew the end was near. His strength faded day by day. He spent his final months guiding William, making sure Normandy would stay strong without him. He held meetings from his bed, listened to reports, and gave advice. He reminded his son to stay true to the people and protect the land. "You must be firm," he told William, "but fair. Fear can win battles, but respect builds kingdoms." Rollo watched William take on more responsibility. He handled disputes, planned defenses, and spoke to nobles with confidence. Rollo saw that Normandy was in good hands. The people, too, had begun to accept William as their leader. They still honored Rollo, but they looked to his son for the future. It gave the old warrior peace. In his final days, Rollo asked for quiet. He looked back on his life, not with regret, but with reflection. He had been a raider, a warrior, a ruler. He had been feared, and later, respected. And now, as he passed his duties to his son, he felt ready. His journey was ending, but he had shaped a land that would endure. The end of the Walker. Rollo, once known as Rollo the Walker, lay in his chamber, surrounded by stone walls and candlelight. The warrior who once crossed oceans and conquered cities now faced the one journey all must take: death. He had no fear. His breath was slow, his body still. He had lived a life of strength and storm, and now he found peace and silence. In the quiet room, only a few remained: his son William, a priest, and his most trusted warriors. Rollo looked at them with calm eyes. He gave a final nod to William, then closed his eyes. The great Viking who had walked across Europe, who had turned raids into rule, was gone. No songs were sung that night, no stories told. Only the sound of wind against the stone halls filled the air. Rollo's time had ended. He had been banished, but he built a home. He had been feared, but became a leader. He had lived as a Viking and died as a duke. The Walker's journey was over.